In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take a photo of flowers and turn it into a loose and expressive floral painting. Hi, I'm Zainab, once a realist painter turned abstract artist. I've been painting for over 6 years, and on this channel, I share with you all of my tips and tricks. In this tutorial, I'll be talking you through everything you need from supplies, techniques, and step-by-step on how to paint this gorgeous painting. If you're ready to paint some loose flowers, make sure you hit the subscribe button, grab your paints, and let's get started. For supplies today, I have a 20 by 30 centimeter canvas. For brushes, I'll be using a filbert brush, a flat brush, a round brush, and a large filbert brush. I have a jar of water, a towel rag, a spray bottle, a paper palette. For colours, I'll be using deep green, cerulean blue, cadmium yellow, quinacridone red, quinacridone magenta, and some white. I also ended up adding Prussian blue and burnt sienna, which you can find all the colours in the description down below. Starting off, I sprayed my canvas and going over with a brush to make sure it's all evenly spread. I'm then grabbing my large filbert brush and taking some of the white, and I'll also be taking some of the yellow. The first step in taking any kind of floral bouquet and making it more loose and expressive is we just want to mainly focus on colors. So I have a reference photo that I am working with. I'm only looking at it a few times. I really want to make sure that I'm not focused on details, and I only want the large shapes and colors to stick with me, and all those other little details I want to forget them. And this is going to allow us to get more creative and loose in our painting. So I'm kind of just color blocking at the moment. Where I see color in the bouquet, I'm just placing it down. I'm really not trying to imitate or mimic specifically the flowers in the painting. This is just expressive, so it is to give off the impression of some flowers, but not really for you to be able to pinpoint exactly what it is. So I'm just kind of taking my time and slowly building up the colors and filling up the canvas so that everywhere on the canvas there is something happening. So we're kind of not leaving any negative space. We want to fill it all up. So I'm seeing in the bouquet that there is some blue, there are some oranges, there's like these really big center florals that are yellow and kind of an ombre orange. So I'm kind of taking my brush and just slowly blocking out all of those colors in a very rough way. It really is the first layer, so it does not need to look perfect at all. You actually want it to be very messy because we're going to be going on top of it another 2 or 3 times, so it really doesn't matter about how it looks now. A lot of the times people can be very fixated on their first impressions when they begin to paint, but for a lot of artists your first 1 or 2, even 3 layers can look really odd, and it isn't until you're on that last layer where you've really put the finishing touches that it really starts to come all together. So I'm taking a bit of the Quinacridone magenta. I'm using different brushes because I do want different shapes. This is what makes the painting look interesting and fun. And this is where I've added the burnt sienna because the deep green was just a little bit too blue and vibrant for my liking. So I added some burnt sienna into there to kind of warm it up a little bit more and give me more of an earthy tone. Because with greens, I don't really like super vibrant greens. I do like to work with more natural toned green. So now I'm just kind of filling up the canvas because again, we're not trying to paint a specific bouquet, we're just creating a floral painting. So if you feel like you want to leave your canvas some of it white, you can go ahead. But for this piece, I've decided to paint the whole canvas green. So now my canvas has a full base of colour, which I'm very happy with. So I'm now going to go in with my second layer and I'm going to start making things take a little bit more shape. Now I'm going to be adding a little bit more strokes and thought into shade and light. So I'm going to be making sure that I'm applying some darker tones of whatever colour base I have. So for example, this very big centre yellow flower, I need to make sure that it has a dark base underneath. so that I can create a sense of depth, and then the painting is not going to appear flat and cartoonish in a sense. I'm going to be doing this with all of the flowers, going in with a darker color and also a lighter shade. Sometimes I'll go in with 2 shades, so here I'm going with a bit of red and yellow, and I'm not even really mixing them, so we're going to be getting these multicolored strokes, which I absolutely love. I think it's beautiful when a stroke of paint has that really cool ombre effect. I think it just looks so appealing to the eye, and it's very pleasing to me to paint in this way as well. You'll see a lot of the time when I'm picking up color with my brush, I'm kind of sometimes picking up 2 colors at the same time. Sometimes I will blend it a little bit on the palette before I then put it onto the canvas, and sometimes I won't. I'm actually purposefully picking up 2 colors at the same time without blending them, so I do get this multicolored stroke as well. A nice tip that I like to give to anyone who wants to try and paint more loosely and more in an expressive way is to keep your brush strokes short and quick. This is going to allow you to kind of cut that pre-thinking notion that we do whenever we're painting something. So if you can paint faster than you can think, you're less likely to ponder a lot on what you're doing and how much and how good that you think it's looking. So then you don't get any intrusive thoughts that are going to stop you and get in the way of your flow. And it's a little bit difficult at first when you start doing this, because your initial reaction is to just kind of observe what you're doing and how realistic it's looking, and it can be very difficult to break out of it. But if you practice regularly, it can start becoming a normal form of meditation, because you're just sat there painting and you're not really thinking. And it's very, very therapeutic to paint in this way, because you're not really thinking twice about what you're doing, and your hands are acting before your mind does. So I'm going over now with the greenery, and I'm using the small filbert brush. I'm adding some of that burnt sienna and also a little bit of the yellow to brighten my green, but also tone it down and not make it so vibrant with the deep green color. And I'm kind of going anywhere that I want to and just creating these very quick leaf shapes. And I'm also remembering to turn the direction of my brush. So sometimes I'm angling it upwards, sometimes downwards, and sometimes to the side. This is going to give some variety and movement to our florals and our leaves, because everything is not going to be flowing in the same direction. For my third layer, I've let the canvas dry a little bit more now so I can go on top. I've added some of the Prussian blue and more burnt sienna to my palette so that I have it on hand ready to mix in. I'm now going in for some more color, but also more highlights. So the second layer was focusing more on adding some of that shade and darkness, and now you're going to see I'm going to be using a lot of white mixed in with the color base that we have applied in the first and second layer, and I'm going to be going on top to just make sure that I'm going to be brightening up the florals that we have and also the greenery. Important thing to remember whenever you're painting loosely is that there is no right or wrong. Everything is a form of expression, so do not think that there is one particular way to paint or one particular way to hold your brush. This part is really just to experiment and explore. The most important thing is that you enjoy what you are doing. My intention whenever I sit down to paint, the main goal is that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to enjoy whatever it is that I'm creating. And it's not to create any kind of form of perfection, but more about enjoying the session and making it therapeutic for me so that I come out of it feeling more positive and joyful and relaxed. So I'm going over with a darker shade of green by mixing in the Prussian blue with the deep green and some of the burnt sienna, so I get a darker, deeper green as well. And I'm also going to go over with some white and brighten my blue florals because they were looking a little bit dull and kind of fading into the background of the green. I do really want these colors to be colorful and I want them to stand out. So the dark is in contrast with the light flowers. So if you're painting dark florals, we want to go for a light background. And if I'm painting light and bright florals, I'm going to aim for a darker background. So we have this dark greenery in the background and we want the flowers to pop out. And so I'm going over with more white to just make them stand out a bit more and adding some more shape to them by using these very quick and loose brush strokes as well, using my round brush. Grabbing my large flat brush, I'm picking up some of the pink and the white, and I'm going to go over wherever I placed pink in the beginning in that first layer. And I'm going to be doing these really large strokes. All of the flowers so far we have done have been quite small and little, and I've been using the filbert brush, but the flat brush has an angular to it, so I'm going for more of these sharp shaped florals. You can just do 1 or 2 or 3 strokes together and cluster them, and it will look as if the flower has a lot of petals, or you can just do 1 or 2 and they will look more like singular flowers standing on their own. And I'm grabbing some of the white and I'm not blending in the pink, so I'm getting these really beautiful multi-layered strokes. Taking whatever yellow I have left on my palette, I'm going to blend a lighter green. So I'm taking a little bit of the yellow and a tiny bit of the Prussian blue and adding a little bit of white just to make it a bit more brighter. And I'm going to go in and start painting in some line shape and some stems, I guess you can call it, or thinner leaves, just to change the shapes that we have so far. We use a lot of filbert brushes, and now I kind of want to go in with the round brush and add some contrast and variety to the shape. So I'm going anywhere and everywhere. There's absolutely no right or wrong place to put this. Just play around and place the light greenery wherever you want. The only thing is I'm focusing on making them very thin and wispy and not thick in any way, so that they kind of just play in contrast to the greenery that we already have painted. Once I was happy with the light green, I then mixed some of the Prussian blue, deep green, and a little bit of the burnt sienna to make a darker shade of green. And I now want to go into the florals as well and add a little bit of darkness to kind of let the background tie into the flowers, so everything isn't kind of standing on its own. Something I like to do whenever I'm working with these loose and expressive paintings is connecting the background with the subject. So in this case, it's our flowers with the greenery, and I kind of want some parts of it to pop through inside so that the whole painting connects as one. Next, I'm just getting my white and I'm going to mix in some yellow just to make it a little bit opaque. And I'm going to go in and put some little yellow dots everywhere. I'm starting off doing it on the pink flowers, but I do end up doing it in a few other places as well around the painting. I think because the yellow floral in the center is kind of on its own, I wanted to tie in that color with the rest of the painting and kind of bring it all together as one piece. This next step is optional, but I had a lot of yellow on my palette and there was no way that I wanted to just kind of waste that paint and let it dry on the palette. So I decided to pick it up and add these kind of very thick and textured petals to the yellow floral, just to kind of make it a bit more interesting and to just finish the rest of the paint. I hope you enjoyed getting loose and fun with this floral painting today. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you thought in the comments.